From unsolved mysteries to unexplained phenomena, from comedy gold to relationship fails, Amazon Music's got the most ad-free top podcasts, included with Prime. Because the only thing that should interrupt your listening is, well, nothing. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep on something pretty major, shaking up the U.S. government, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
Right. This whole thing kicked off by Donald Trump and Elon Musk after the election. The idea was a big government slim down and overhaul.
Exactly. And we've pulled together quite a bit of recent reporting, AP News, NPR, Wired, even the Wikipedia page tracking the fallout to try and get a clear picture.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise around it.
Our mission today, cut through that noise. We want to understand what DOGE is really about, its impact, the controversies, give you a solid overview of something that's, well, complex and moving fast.
And it seems like the reaction, just the public and political reaction itself, is a huge part of the story, even before we get into the nuts and bolts.
Absolutely. That's a great starting point. So, public opinion. It didn't exactly start with a bang, did it?
No, not really. You look at that AP NORC poll back in January 2025, it was pretty divided. Actually, more disapproval than approval.
What were the numbers?
It was something like 39% disapproved of DOGE, only 29% approved. And the view of Musk personally, even worse, 52% unfavorable.
So uphill battle from the start.
Definitely a headwind. And that disapproval seems to have grown. Axios reported in February 25 that more polls were showing a majority unhappy with how DOGE was, well, dissecting government and maybe Musk's level of power.
But it's interesting that Harvard Cap's Harris poll around the same time painted a slightly different picture, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It showed really strong support, like 72%, for the idea of cutting government waste. People want that.
And a lot of them, 60%, actually thought DOGE was making cuts.
Right. But here's the catch. 58% were really worried about DOGE getting access to sensitive data.
That's the core tension, isn't it? Efficiency versus privacy.
Absolutely. And you saw that split again in the Neapolitan News Service poll. Almost half, 47%, supported the cuts, but 39% were opposed. Not exactly a mandate.
And what about younger people?
Oh, they were really not keen on it. That Axios Generation Lab survey, late February. A huge 71% disapproval among under 35s.
Wow. So whatever DOGE was doing, it wasn't winning over the next generation.
Not at all. And these numbers, they probably fueled some of the political reactions we saw starting to bubble up.
Like the Republican caucuses.
Exactly. The Wikipedia entry tracks this. You had Republican DOGE caucuses, committees forming in the House and Senate, people like Bean, Sessions, Green, Senator Ernst.
Yeah, the Delivering Outstanding Government Efficiency Caucuses, DOGE. Clever. And the House Oversight Subcommittee. So definite Republican momentum.
But interestingly, there was some initial Democratic interest, too.
Right, I saw that. Moskowitz, Suozzi, Hoyle, Khanna, Landsman, Torres, Golden. They seemed open at first. Maybe you saw some common ground on waste.
Seemed like it. But that didn't last long.
What happened there?
Well, the Congressional Caucus met, talked about cutting remote work, things like that. But by February, Hoyle and Moskowitz were voicing serious doubts.
Hoyle actually left the caucus, didn't she? Said something about Musk being more focused on tax breaks.
Yeah, something like that. And Moskowitz basically said, what's the point? He felt there was no real collaboration. His quote was pretty famous. Elon's been doing it all himself.
So much for a joint effort. Makes you wonder about the original intent.
It does. And meanwhile, you had governors like DeSantis in Florida, Stitt in Oklahoma with DOGE, Abbott in Texas, launching similar things at the state level.
So the core idea spread in some circles, despite the pushback.
Oh, yeah, but the pushback was significant. Protests, resistance, that's a whole other chapter.
Let's get into that. There were actual protests.
Big time. Countrywide protests against the layoffs, the service cuts. You had the Tesla takeover ones targeting Musk's company specifically.
And inside government, too. I heard about spoon emojis.
Technology Transformation Services employees using to protest a memo called Fork in the Road. A subtle protest, but clear.
And then the bigger ones, stop the coup outside OPM and Treasury.
Yeah, those really hit at the core fears. Musk being unelected, fears about data theft, control over government infrastructure. The hands-off protests later just hammered that home.
It wasn't just marching, though. People resigned, right? High-level tech people.
Absolutely. Folks from the U.S. Digital Service, the Pentagon's SWAT team of nerds, these are skilled people walking away, which says a lot.
And politically. Any counter moves?
Definitely. Representative Sarah Jacobs introduced the Delete DOGE Act to try and defund it.
And while Republican governors were writing letters supporting DOGE,
Nearly 50 lawmakers wrote one raising serious privacy and security concerns, especially about AI use and Musk's potential conflicts of interest.
it feels like the resistance organized pretty quickly, even online.
Totally. The RFed News subreddit just exploded, became a hub for federal workers sharing info, organizing.
And former employees speaking out, like
Well,
the ATF group.
Yeah, they lost their jobs and launched a website basically saying this was a bad decision, plus the Union of Concerned Scientists petitioning for transparency.
There were some stranger things too, weren't there? Musk getting heckled off a live stream.
Ah, yeah. And people apparently showing up at San Francisco City Hall pretending to be from DOGE demanding records.
That's wild. And that AI video of Trump and Musk
Mm-hmm.
in a HUD building.
Bizarre. It just shows the charged and sometimes surreal atmosphere around all this.
Okay, so beyond the politics and protests, what about the practical side? The actual administration, the economics. Sources raised big flags there too.
Huge flags, especially from actual, real federal auditors. Wired talked to some experienced ones.
And they weren't impressed.
Far from it.
Yeah.
They called what DOGE was doing a heist, not auditing. They pointed out the DOGE folks lacked the right background. They were skipping security steps.
That's a strong word, heist.
Yeah.
They felt it was dangerous.
Very rushing into sensitive systems, payment systems without understanding them. They blamed that for errors like the false claim about, 150-year-olds getting Social Security.
Right, that sounds like a pretty basic error to make if you're trying to prove competence.
Exactly. Undermines the whole thing. And auditors worried federal worker data could be used for surveillance, for targeted firings, contract data at risk too.
And the AI chatbots being rolled out? More privacy worries.
Uh-huh. Plus that story about a former DOGE rep at Treasury allegedly sharing a spreadsheet with PII, personally identifiable information, outside the agency. Really bad if true.
So the picture is chaos. Flying blind, as Wired put it.
Seems like it. No real grasp of the IT systems, the coding, and ignoring the agency experts who do know.
And that could actually cost more money, right? Not save it.
Potentially, yes. Contract cancellation fees, losing bulk discounts like on humanitarian aid. It adds up.
And wider economic risk, like the commercial property market.
Yeah, that warning about a potential crash in mortgage-linked securities if they started fire-selling government buildings, that's serious. Plus the USAA freeze hitting farmers, businesses with USDA grants. Real-world impacts.
So are the savings DOGE claimed even real?
Well, they're being questioned. Figures revised down. That wall of receipts had an $8 billion error, apparently triple-counted USAID cuts.
And the pace of contract cuts isn't near Musk's $2 trillion target.
Not even close, according to reports. The Economist even said Treasury outflows increased after DOGE took over, and NPR couldn't verify the terminated contracts.
And people like Larry Summers predicted failure.
Yeah, saying firing auditors is usually a way to lose revenue, not gain it, which makes sense.
And then there's the massive elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Musk's other businesses. SpaceX, XAI, Tesla.
Huge potential conflicts of interest, and the lack of clarity around people like Steve Davis, what their actual role is. It makes DOGE seem, amorphous, a specter almost.
Cost savings being done by other appointees, blurring responsibility.
Right. Even the courts, according to the New York Times, are struggling to figure out who DOGE staff are and what authority they actually have.
Which just makes the security and privacy risks even scarier.
Exactly. And some sources get into really alarming detail there.
Like the whistleblower at the National Labor Relations Board, Daniel Baroulis.
Yes. His account is deeply troubling. Potential exfiltration of really sensitive stuff, union info, legal cases, corporate secrets, things that absolutely need protecting.
And there was evidence. Data spikes.
A big spike, about 10 gigabytes of text files leaving the NLRB network. But then, crucially, DOGE staff reportedly insisted their actions not be logged.
So the logs went dark.
Some outbound logs apparently vanished. Actions attributed to a deleted account. Plus, someone created and deleted a high-level access key, a SAS token.
And software that could hide data removal.
Yeah, things like request SIP rotator, browser list tools that could potentially automate and mask data exfiltration. Baroulis also worried about DNS tunneling.
That's a technique to hide data in regular internet traffic.
And maybe the most alarming bit. an attempted login from Russia using a new DOGE account right after DOGE got
Wow,
access.
okay, that raises massive red flags, national security level.
Absolutely. And the concern wasn't just the NLRB, it was broader fears. DOGE was pulling sensitive data from multiple agencies, and nobody knew why.
So legal challenges started.
Yes, questioning why DOGE needed access to things like Social Security records, medical files, tax info. A judge actually blocked their access to Treasury payment systems because of the risk of unlawful data sharing.
The fear being they'd create backdoors, digital doors for criminals or spies.
That's the worry. Even technical stuff like ditching magnetic tape archives.
But you have that air gap security benefit
Yeah.
being offline.
Exactly. Replacing them with digital storage raised concerns. And linking it all back to Musk, could all this data give his AI company, XAI, an insane advantage?
Cybersecurity experts weren't buying the AI plan either, were they? Calling it pure fantasy without proper security.
Right. Highlighting the dangers of just ignoring basic cybersecurity rules. And we saw weird personnel things too. FAA staff on security projects fired, apparently one because they criticized Musk online.
And accidental firings at the nuclear agency, NNSA, and USDA.
Yeah, followed by attempts to rehire them. It just adds to the picture of chaos. Some experts basically said DOGE's approach, like hacking into systems, creates multiple new threats.
Centralizing data, adding servers, changing core systems.
All potential vulnerabilities. And the big one, potential violations of the Privacy Act of 1974, accessing and maybe removing private data without authority.
Which brings us to the underlying philosophy, the politics behind it all.
Yeah, sources definitely connect DOGE to things like Project 2025, the plan for more presidential control over the bureaucracy.
And some commentators use pretty strong language, like coup d'etat, because of Musk's unelected role.
They did. Comparisons to authoritarianism, oligarchy, that language is out there in the analysis.
And influences like Curtis Yarvin. Mass deregulation ideas.
Seems like those philosophies are playing a role in Musk's thinking, according to some interpretations. The idea of God mode, access to data, undermining privacy.
Leading to terms like techno-fascism being used by critics.
It highlights the deep ideological clash. Is it about efficiency, or is it, as some argue, a land grab, imposing Musk's freak experiments?
Even Bernie Sanders shifted his view, right? Initially agreed on Pentagon waste, but then called the gutting of agencies illegal.
Yeah, significant shift. It all seems to come back to that fundamental clash with privacy norms, especially the Privacy Act.
So wrapping this deep dive up, it's undeniable that DOGE has stirred up a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Huge opposition, public and political.
Absolutely. Serious questions about its methods, its transparency or lack thereof, the economic fallout, and these massive security and privacy risks.
It feels like it moved way past just efficiency, didn't it? It's opened up this huge debate about power, data, the role of private citizens in government functions.
Right. And considering everything we've discussed, the motives, the actions, the intense reactions, it really makes you step back and think about governance today. What does this whole DOGE saga reveal about how we handle radical change in big established systems? What are the real risks versus potential rewards?
And maybe the biggest lingering question for you, the listener. What does the future hold for government efficiency and data security in light of all this? Where do we draw the lines?